So in order to understand real grace and the true definition of grace, we first have to address our initial belief of grace. And so this past week, I walked around and I asked people, what is grace? What is grace? Like, define grace.
I don't know what grace means. I don't know what grace means.
I was always taught that grace is like understanding how to be kind and handling situations
Grace,
well.
it could be like the Pledge of Allegiance, like grace under God.
Grace, or having grace, is being selfless.
Like there's physical grace, like dancers.
Ballerina, it could be like very graceful.
Accepting the things that happen to you and doing the best of what you can.
I think kindness is grace. It's understanding that, you know, you're confident as a person and that no matter what, you can handle each situation with confidence and grace. And it shows a better understanding of other people too.
We've all heard the word grace in some way, shape, or form. But what is the true definition of grace? And what does it mean in terms of Jesus' undying love for us? If we dig deeper, beyond the initial perception of grace, how then is real grace defined? What is real grace?
Grace is God's perfection.
The whole idea of accepting grace, which is supposed to be completely free, is very hard for me to wrap my mind around, because as a human, I want to work for everything, but God has made it to where His grace is completely free.
Throughout all my screw-ups in life, I kind of learned that God won't abandon me no matter what.
God's grace was a message to us to love the people around us, and because of His love for us, we're able to live without a burden.
God's grace gives us the salvation as if we were living one way, when really we live a different way and we don't deserve it, and we don't live in God's image, but He still loves us for it.
And to me, living in grace also means that accepting that I'm completely loved by God, and not just accepting it, but taking that in and then trying to help others in that way to accept grace.
And no matter how bad I screw up and no matter how bad of a son I am to Him, He's always going to show grace and always show mercy to me.
God's grace is a blessing because it allows us to see His presence and His plan that He created for each individual.
God's grace is visible in people when they're smiling and they're happy, because that's God's way of shining through each individual person.
That's kind of what grace did in my life.
Okay. True grace to me is the gift of God, and although it's really hard to accept, it's totally real and amazing.
Understanding real grace is a process, and it starts with Jesus. We give and receive grace because Christ first sacrificed His life for us. We, the undeserved people inclined to sin, receive a grace that enables us to do the impossible because its deliverer once performed the impossible through His death and resurrection. The meaning behind why we give and receive grace is because Christ first sacrificed His life for us. Our sinful nature to cheat, lie, gossip, judge, envy, etc. has been forgiven by an act of real grace. The understanding of real grace ends with you, because God's grace led me to this moment right here, explaining His message to you. Grace isn't just for me, it's for everyone. So now it's your decision. Will you allow this grace to dwell in your heart and change the way that you look at life? Or will you continue to live as though you are in control? You have a choice. Rest in the forgiveness and hope in a God who tells you that you're worth so much more than the clothes you wear, than your GPA, your class rank, any test scores that you may get, or any guy or girl that tells you they like you. You're worth so much more than the lies you believe, than the pain you don't know what to do with, than the approval that you try to gain from others. Simply put, you're worth the grace of God. His grace is already yours. There's nothing you could do to make God love you any more than He does right now. And there's nothing you could ever do to make God love you any less than He already does. And you know that truth, and you believe in that kind of God, it changes everything. Real grace is everything, and real grace changes everything.
Real grace is everything.